What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and so I've got some news for you guys today, some injury updates and some roster moves that I want to get into. So it looks like Rashad Jones, Albert Wilson, and Jesse Davis are all at practice. Jesse Davis does have a brace on his right arm. So obviously, you know, we're going to have to keep an eye on Jesse Davis to see how he does. But the Dolphins have placed guard Danny Isidora on injured reserve. So we have officially lost an offensive lineman for, I mean, at least... I think he's eligible. He would be eligible if he's healthy and you know, passes a physical and stuff. It's a foot injury. He might be eligible to come back to the 53-man roster midway through the season. I'm not 100% sure. We have 4 guys on IR right now, and we are able to take 2 off. It does also depend though on you know, how healthy they are, of course. But anyway, so there's that. Also, let's note though, just as a frame of reference, right, because everybody likes to blame Adam Gase for things that are not in his control. Last year we had over 10 players on injured reserve. We have 4 right now. That could increase, but if we're 3 games through the season, and by the end of the year last year we had, I think it was 12 guys on injured reserve. So we're only... Now, granted, we are only approximately a quarter of the way through the year, but I find it highly unlikely that we're going to have 12 guys on injured reserve by the end of the season, especially with a couple guys who will probably come back midway through. And that was over 10 guys after we had brought some guys back last year. So just to show how injured we were last year and how much that affected us. Anyway, but so Danny Isidora is officially on IR, so our already thin offensive line got even thinner. Jesse Davis is all banged up. He is practicing, but we'll see. Also, Jamal Wiltz was not spotted at practice, and Bobby McCain was not at practice either, it would seem. Apparently, though, he's not having surgery, but he does have a shoulder problem, which unfortunately we know that safeties tend to get shoulder injuries. So Bobby McCain's banged up. But I told you, though, you know, we were gonna get banged up, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and we are starting to get some guys hurt. We are hopefully going to get some guys back, though, with Rashad Jones and Albert Wilson, and hopefully Davis is okay, but we'll see. Also, though, they did bring in a guy. So, as I had mentioned, they cut Tank Carradine. So we have, like, no pass rush yet again, and they cut him to get an offensive tackle, though, which is good because obviously the offensive line is just hurting. But you could have gotten rid of one of the other useless players that we don't need instead of like the top pass rusher that we have. Anyway, let me read this to you though, just to give you a little background and stuff on who Andrew Donald is. The Miami Dolphins have added yet another journeyman offensive lineman to their 53-man roster this week, announcing on Tuesday that the team was signing offensive tackle Andrew Donald. The move serves as a catalyst for the Dolphins cutting defensive end Tank Carradine, but more importantly calls into question the health of starting left tackle Jesse Davis. Davis, who has been coming along nicely in his late summer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, essentially... Here we go. Here's Donald. Donald entered the NFL in 2015 as a member of the St. Louis Rams. He was a 4th-round draft selection from the University of Iowa, who would go on to start 6 games for the Rams before being cut in 2017. Donald, however you pronounce his name, has also spent time with the Baltimore Ravens in 2017 and Detroit Lions in 2018 before finding his way to South Florida to serve as an insurance policy at offensive tackle. Yeah, so, I mean, they're making the move in like he said, as an insurance policy, and just in case Jesse Davis goes down. But I mean, he's another, perennial backup kind of guy that, hasn't done much. I mean, it's not really much of an answer, but it's something, I suppose. So there's that. But our offensive line, that's why, like, I don't know how people think that this is going to get better. Not only are we built to be as bad as possible by this organization, but, we're constantly, like, shuffling guys around, bringing in new guys, cutting guys. We're getting hurt now. And this upcoming game we play, I mean, they have a much better pass rush, the Chargers do, than the Cowboys. Far better. Anyway, there is one other thing, though, that I did want to... There's this article on Deadspin. That's the deadspin.com. By a dude, Jordan Sargent. So this is his article, The Blowhole. Brian Flores wants to spoon feed you sadness. I thought this was really interesting. The most important thing to know about the Miami Dolphins is that their new coach, Brian Flores, treats every game like he will be held criminally liable if anything interesting happens. Dolphins fans, befitting a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game in 20 years, have extensive experience with coaches who may be sexually aroused by 36-yard field goals. R.I.P. Tony Sperano. But Flores takes this specific NFL brand of sadomasochism to a new level. Flores is the kind of coach to whom football being a spectator sport is at best a coincidence and at worst a nuisance. In his short time in Miami, he has already been publicly rebuked by the team's beat writers for his North Korean approach to early season propaganda. Still, Flores lies not because he has to, but because he wants to. He isn't simply putting on a public face because he gets paid to cover for the franchise's tanking. He also believes his football team should be afforded the sort of secrecy normally granted to government agencies. Real quick, I'm just going to stop. And this is a big reason why, look, first of all, people, again, I'm going to say it again, stop blaming the players for the situation that they were forced into, and stop trying to defend Brian Flores. He has a major role to play in this. He's made decisions that directly impact this, right? Whereas, again, Adam Gase, the things that he got blamed for, he had no control over. Brian Flores has a lot of control over all of the things that are happening. Does he have all of the say? No, obviously, Stephen, but he is also following the marching orders of Stephen Ross, who directed him to tank this year. So it's not a surprise. So from top down, that's why they're all should be held equally liable, right? Stephen Ross, Chris Greer, Marvin Allen, Reggie McKenzie, and Brian Flores. All of them need to be gone from top down. He is the only one who seems unable to acknowledge that this character, the tight-lipped, tight-ass who would rather sacrifice a child than go for it in the red zone, takes on a flaming absurdity when you lose every game by 30 points. This was all very apparent on Sunday against the Cowboys. In the first half, the Dolphins actually moved the ball. Despite having to run for his life on every play, Josh Rosen looked like he could be a good quarterback for whichever new team he's playing for next season. The Dolphins' big receivers, Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, pretty much did what they wanted with Dallas' secondary, even if their ability to catch the ball was intermittent. Stop again real quick. So first of all, a lot of people are trying to make a lot of hype over Josh Rosen and Preston Williams' supposed chemistry. And they do look like they connect sometimes. And, they do look like they could grow into something maybe potentially at some point, right? And then, some people even tried to use that he got targeted 12 times as evidence. But he only caught 4 of them. 4 out of 12. A third of them. That's really not great. So clearly there's still things that need to be worked on there. Do they have a connection at all? Yeah, sure. I would say they got a bit of a connection. He certainly likes Preston Williams. But it's not like this, super symbiotic, love affair kind of chemistry where, they just make magic every single time that, Rosen goes to him. It's not like that. So people need to calm down. Also, let's note, right, and part of the premise of this article is that a lot of the things that he's doing are just flabbergasting, right? Like why? He gives some examples in a minute, but let me give some additional ones that weren't given here. Bobby McCain. We paid him as the league's highest paid slot corner. That's where he absolutely excels at. Why put him to safety in a position he's never played before? Why? Right? I mean, then you can also go into why would you cut this player and that player for absolutely no reason. TJ McDonald, Vincent Taylor, blah, blah, blah. Right? But why would you move him there? And why would you put Minka, take him out of free safety where he belongs, where he plays best, and where he's now playing in Pittsburgh, where he got not just an interception, but also a forced fumble in his first game. Yes, the Steelers lost, but Minka is clearly an impact player. Again, he's a proven player, and he's doing what he does best at the position he should be playing. So why would you make those moves, right? Because then that directly led to Fitzpatrick getting upset by how he was being used, and because this organization is flat out proving that they don't care to win it all, at least if you want to be as fair as possible right now. So, I mean, Brian Flores is directly involved in all of this, and a lot of the decisions he's making are just like super confusing, right? There's no logical reason for any of it except for you are really trying to be bad. And see, and that's another thing too. So do I think that we're actually going to take a step back this next game because the Chargers have a far better pass rush? Yeah, I do. So I think that the defense might look okay coming out, but they're going to end up getting super tired because the offense is garbage yet again. And I think that they're going to take a step back from the little bit of marginal progress they made last week because the Cowboys have a far weaker pass rush than the Chargers do, and I think that they're going to end up getting home and getting more sacks and certainly a lot more pressure on Josh Rosen this week. But at the same time, the Dolphins were actually doing pretty well in the first half, and I even said that during my live stream. I was like, well, you know, they're actually doing all right. They're kind of moving the ball. There was a bunch of failures in there. But he legitimately, like, I mean, look, dude, you know, I've been saying for a while that he's clearly lying to the roster and the fan base and everybody in the public because of the fact that he's saying to everybody that we're not tanking, but how he and this organization have built this team, it's clear as day that they're trying to put the weakest personnel out on the field that they possibly can. Well, as it continues on, there is accruing evidence that he actually even may be in games intentionally calling things that are not going to work. That's not a definitive. I'm not saying it is for sure, but there is starting to you know, surface some information that might suggest such a thing. Let me continue on though with this article. Let's see. When Dallas was on offense, Dak Prescott played very disrespectfully, using the 10 seconds he was afforded on every pass to run around in circles before flinging the ball 50 yards downfield. Most of these passes fell incomplete and one was intercepted. Also, too, the Cowboys had mentioned, somebody on the Cowboys, maybe it was Dak, I don't know, had mentioned that they didn't even open up their offense fully. I don't know. Maybe they're just talking shit, whatever. You know, but it is also possible because it's not like we're really hard to play against, right? I mean, we're super young, inexperienced. There's a lot of confusion, missed calls, missed tackles, misreads, blah, 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 blah. Not to mention penalties and then blah, 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 blah. So much other shit. Anyway, the Dolphins legitimately should have been winning at halftime. By how it was going, yeah, you might actually think so. Dallas put up only 6 points, right? And that's actually another thing that some people are using as to why we've made progress. Oh, we totally should have been up it. Yeah, but this team is inept. They are designed to fail, and the coaching staff really apparently is trying to push towards having an 0-16 season. Like, they are legitimately trying to make sure that we lose every game to guarantee that they get that number 1 pick. And especially, and here's, right, so there's also people saying that, you know, maybe we could end up beating the 0-3, the current 0-3 Steelers or the current 0-3 Jets, right? But when you look at it from also the perspective of, since those teams are struggling to, you know, currently to the same level that we are record-wise, that we'd have competition for that number 1 overall pick. Well, if they're tanking to the degree that it seems like, and since Stephen Ross ordered the tank initially and also ordered that we take a quarterback next year in the draft high, well, they literally might scheme and coach our way into failure even in those games against pretty weak opponents, right? And so, admittedly, it looks like I'll be wrong that the Jets are going to have a good season. Again, and a lot of people will blame Adam Gase. I don't think it's his fault. It's his first year there. There's some high-priced free agents like Le'Veon Bell that he didn't want. He was not, but he got it. When he got there, they were there. C.J. Mosley's another one, right? So he's got to deal with it. Not to mention, he's already gone through 2 quarterbacks. So they're having a lot of problems that he doesn't have control over. So he needs to be given the time, and I think if he is given the time, he can get get that team pulled around. Sam Darnold is a promising young quarterback, and he just needs a few drafts. But anyway, I could be wrong though. It looks like I'm probably going to be wrong that they are going to be, second in the division and have a good season. Okay, fine. When I'm wrong, and I admit that. But it looks like this team and this regime and this coaching staff is so determined to get that number 1 pick, they might actually throw games. And, it's in really hard to tell ways. That's why I can't say for sure, is Brian Flores and Chad O'Shea, are they really trying to throw games but when you look at some of the decisions that they've made, even in games, how they've, Minka and Jerome Baker, a couple people have talked about how, guys are used kind of out of position sometimes and so on and so forth, right? That was one of the big complaints Minka had. I mean, all right, let's continue on though. Here's what Flores and offensive coordinator Chad O'Shea were able to do on their 4 scoring opportunities. On the first drive of the game, the Dolphins attempted a 47-yard field goal to give them the first lead of the season. Kicker Jason Sanders missed. Now, he barely missed. I'm not saying he missed on purpose, but it was a mistake. Certainly it was a mistake on that first drive. I wouldn't necessarily say that was an intentional thing. I mean, if that was intentional, if they told him, I mean, he should be better than that. It's 47 yards. It's not even like it was 50 plus. But I mean, I find it hard to believe that they told him, go out there and just barely miss it. I don't know that one, but there are some other questionable things that happened on their third drive down 10-0. The Dolphins had first and goal on the 8-yard line. They ran Kalen Ballage up the middle 3 times and then kicked a field goal from the 3-yard line. So that's kind of questionable. Why would you do 3 straight runs, especially when your run offense is garbage and your offensive line can't fucking run protect for shit, and Kalen Ballage has been struggling. So why would you do that 3 straight times? And then even when you're down to the 3-yard line, you don't even at least go for it down 10-0, right? So that is pretty questionable. So look, but that in and of itself is not even the big thing. But there are plenty of them, and there have been instances like that in the previous games as well. Flores then called for an onside kick, which the Dolphins would have recovered had they not been offsides. Again, I just think that was a mental error. So that's probably, I actually thought that was a solid call, especially because we recovered it. But the guy who ended up recovering it was also the guy who was offsides. So that had, at least a part to play in why he recovered it. And then obviously it was taken back. because of the penalty. But I actually thought the call was solid overall. And, I find it difficult to think that they told the guy to be offside. So again, just probably a mental mistake. But that shows the problem with having, such an inexperienced team, and why doing that purge was so problematic. Because then it causes all that kind of stuff too. But that is the fault of this coaching staff and front office. In the second quarter, the Dolphins again drove inside the 20. On third down, Rosen threw a pass to Williams in the back of the end zone. It was called incomplete, but may have been a touchdown. Flores declined to challenge and kicked a field goal from the 15-yard line. As the game went to commercial, both Fox announcers were openly incredulous over Flores' decision. Now, this is actually the big one, and there was a lot of talk about it. That catch that Preston Williams had, look, in the game and during my live stream, I was saying, look, the call on the field is incomplete. They would even if they challenged it, they probably would stand and he would lose the timeout. So that probably had some part of the calculation. But why the fuck not? You're losing, hella bad. Just go for it. You don't really have anything to lose at this point, right? So why, except for, but at that time, that catch, it would have been 10-3 at the time. If I'm not mistaken, we actually could have tied the game, or at least got us closer by a touchdown, right? And at least made it not so embarrassing. But he just didn't do it. He just decided, no, I'm not going to do it whatsoever. And there was potential. It could have gotten reversed. I mean, it looked like he did catch it. It was super last second. It was about like a nanosecond that, I don't remember who the defender was, but barely flicked the ball out. And he just, no, I'm not going to do it. On the final drive of the first half, the Dolphins again got into the red zone. On first down from the 7-yard line, they ran Kenyon Drake up the middle. He fumbled the ball away. Again, that's why, to be fair, some of those examples don't seem like, questionable decisions, but a couple of them certainly are, right? The Cowboys really wanted this game to be interesting. Flores did not, and his will was much stronger than theirs. At every juncture, he retreated from the very powerful but terrifying life force that is the end zone, choosing instead to kick the ball over the wall he must see when he looks at the goal line. It was 10-6 at halftime, and the Cowboys spent the entire second half ramming Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard into the second level of the Dolphins defense 9 yards at a time until everyone was asleep. Did the other team cover? Line, Cowboys by 22.5. Margin, Cowboys by 25. So obviously we know they covered the spread. Who should be the emotion? He then goes on, who should be most ashamed to have participated in this game? Well, he used court. He noted a couple plays. I'm not going to bother with this. He says Jamal Wiltz, he did suffer a groin injury, and Chidobe Awuzie for the Cowboys, but I'm not even worried about that. Just the last little part, how it feels to be a Dolphins fan this week. Mostly like being in detention. Brian Flores took away my calculator that had snake on it and made me stare at the wall. Look, guys, I mean, I don't foresee any of this getting any better. And, especially this week. I mean, we play a really good Chargers team. They have a good offense, and their defense is, like I said, their pass rush is far better than the Cowboys. So I expect that they're going to get more pressure and probably get home and get more sacks this week than last week. But I do not expect anything to change really, and I expect that we're probably going to, again, get beat. And look, again, it's not definitive, but it does look like they're, I mean, if this continues, and if in games going forward we continue to see more of these questionable decisions, it's hard to, especially with the rest of the context and information that we have, it would be kind of hard to not think, at the very least think, hey, dude, like, it looks like you actually might be trying to lose this. Anyway, but then at the same time, to be fair, there was the onside kick, which I thought, philosophically was a good thing, and that shows that they might be actually trying to like win or whatever, Obviously it didn't work and it had to come back, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys right now. I'm gonna get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section, and of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.